Let's unbox the Black Series 6-inch figure of Echo in Mercenary Gear. Villa Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there. Thanks for visiting Villa Varykino. We're continuing our celebration of 3 amazing seasons of the animated series The Bad Batch by opening up all of our Black Series figures of characters from the show. And today we have Echo in Mercenary Gear. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll take a closer look at the figure out of the box and compare it to the Season 1 version of Echo from The Bad Batch. But first, let's take one last look at the packaging. Of course, the first thing we notice, this is during the plastic-free packaging era, so we have a glossy image of the figure rather than the window. For the Bad Batch series in the Black Series line, we have a dark red accent color stripe here. It says Star Wars The Bad Batch in black text, and then that dark red is used for the character name Echo Mercenary Gear. On the side, we have, again, some really fun art of Echo with his droid arm really visible there, fading into that accent color. Again, the black text is a little bit harder to read against this color. It says Echo Mercenary Gear like it does on the front. It is really fun to line up all of your Black Series packaging and get that mosaic of all of the characters, so I do like to keep my boxes. On the back, again, instead of the artwork for this plastic-free packaging line, we again have a picture of the figure. So it's a bit different here. We have the accent color stripe here. This one is number 17 from the Bad Batch series of Black Series figures. And we also have a little bit of a blurb about the character. Echo Mercenary Gear. Former ARC Trooper Echo's knowledge of proper military tactics and strategy provides valuable insight, while his socket arm and cybernetic implants give him the unique ability to interact with computer systems. So, no spoilers, but a nice little introduction to the character if you haven't watched the show and are just filling out your Black Series collection there. Because we don't see the figure through the window, we do have this interesting and helpful little graphic here of the figure inside and all of the accessories that he will come with. We've got a backpack, a blaster, and a helmet. It also notes this figure is 6 inches tall or 15.2 centimeters. And then we have all of that plastic-free packaging advertisement notes there as well. So pretty standard for that windowless packaging from the Black Series line. Very glad that we are not in this era anymore, but that's the packaging. So let's get the figure out and take a closer look. I like to open mine up from the underside. I just find that it just looks a little bit better rather than going in through the top, but to each collector, you've all got your specific favorite ways of opening up your boxes. So we've got a cardboard tray here. There we go, slides out nicely, and there we have the figure inside, wrapped in Star Wars The Black Series branded tissue paper, and we have a couple of paper envelopes here with the accessories inside. It does stop them from sort of floating around inside the box, but I find that because they've just been wrapped up like this, the articulation can look a little bit interesting because they're not posed like they are in those plastic display windows. So really interesting to see if this one's going to look a little wonky when we get it out. So let's open this up. Oh, I really like the colors. This looks really neat. Okay, it looks pretty straight. A little bit wonky there in the ankles, but nothing, just a little bit of tweaking of articulation. And he actually comes with the helmet on. That's a bit different. Very nice. I like the colors. Okay, I'll clear out all of this packaging so we can take a closer look. But wow, he looks pretty cool. So now we have the figure and the accessories out of the box. I'm just going to open up the little extra paper envelope with the other accessories in it. It's kind of fun the way that they package them so that they don't get lost. So we have a backpack here, some really fun colors there. And we have, tucked away in here, we have one tiny little Clone Trooper blaster pistol. Very fun. So I'm going to pop those accessories off to the side because I have to check out this figure. I think this looks really fun. I love these colors. Of course, this makes me think back to the prequel era where we had clone troopers in all different vibrant color accents. This is such an interesting mix. Obviously, it's going to have to replicate the color scheme of his armor as seen in the Bad Batch, but there's something about the way that it renders in action figure form. It's really quite striking. Obviously, in the first season, Clone Force 99 wears very dark colors with that dark red accent, dark gray, red. It was very sort of almost a little bit menacing. There's something a little bit lighter about this color scheme. It's less aggressive. I think it's just the way that I sort of see of it. This is really quite interesting. Okay, so wow, we've got a lot of different paint here. Okay, so we've got a pinhole here in the back to attach the backpack. We've got some nice colors and painting. Of course, with the Bad Batch, all of the weathering really helps sort of add a level of detail that isn't always there in action figures. We can see that in the sculpting, we've got all of the sort of pitting and weathering along the edge of sort of one of the chest pieces here. We've got some sort of scratches built into the plastic molding here as well. Weathering here, we've got scratches and things like that on the helmet. Just gives it such an in-world, they've seen action feel to it. Even on the back, this is going to be covered by the backpack, but we can still see the weathering here. I really like that detail. Very fun. Okay, so we've got a really nice mix of like grays, oranges, yellow tones here. And a really interesting and striking, we've sort of got these arrows coming in here from the arms. And we've even got colors in here at the elbows, at the shoulders as well. And the shoulder bells with some orange. We've got, I mean, I would say it's, you know, different gloves here. But yes, of course, he has his sort of droid socket arm here and a red glove on the other side, which is really quite striking there. And we've got some orange on his forearm there, and we've got a completely different skirt to his original form here. This one is kind of like a caramel kind of beigey brown color with a, I want to say it's like a dark orange. It's not quite a red, at least in my eyes. I think it's a little bit more of a dark orange color trimmed here. And we've got some very different legs to the first version of the figure. I remember his very large kind of cybernetic knees. We've got different legs here, and I really like the colors. We've got browns, darker browns, grays. Such a fun mix of colors and textures. Wow, okay, let's check out some of his articulation. So I like that there's a bit of a gap here. I feel like that's going to make... Okay, so we do have the slightly rubbery shoulder bells that are just catching. I thought we might have a little bit of a better articulation because of that gap. We can see that if we lift it up, that's kind of going to bubble. It does give us that freedom of movement. I don't particularly like doing that to my figures. I just worry about that deforming over time. So let's see. Nice sculpting there at the elbows. I like how that works. I'm so glad we don't really see much of those pins anymore. This is a little bit tighter, but very good articulation there. This one doesn't come with the big sort of any accessories. The first version of the figure had like a sort of like a grapple accessory that fit over this part. This one doesn't have any additional or alternate pieces for his right arm there. And I will see how well this helmet will come off in a minute because the original one came with it off in the packaging. This one is already on there, so that's really interesting. So nice movement there at the middle of the torso there. And of course, side to side as well. We don't really have much in that sort of waist movement anymore because of that middle section there. I think it does really work being able to sort of turn at that point. People don't really twist at the waist quite like that. I think I don't know if this is fixed in this point or whether this, I feel like this is fixed. Sometimes with belts you can kind of float them around a little bit. This feels more fixed at the waist. And I think because this is kind of a thick plastic, you can kind of see how thick it is against this edge here. This is going to restrict. We've got that sort of swivel where we can turn the thigh to the side here. I've gone and twisted it to the side, so I can't move the legs much. This is really, that thick plastic there is really stopping the legs from moving forward and backwards much. I can only get it to about there, pushing it back. That's really hitting and stopping the legs from moving much. And this is, I don't want to create a split here in the plastic by trying to flex this out to move his legs. So I'm probably going to keep him very straight-legged in terms of posing. It's interesting that we've always got these articulation points, even if accessories and costume details sort of prohibit us from getting a little too wild with the movement. But yeah, so very nice movement in the knees. We can kind of see there. That moves back nice and freely. We've got those sort of kneecap armor pieces there, hiding the articulation there at the front, which is nice. And I can point the toes, always good. So yeah, little bit of a shame that we've got this plastic component, the skirt here, that's going to restrict movement of the legs. You can see it splits open in the back. I do like the colors and the sculpting detail here, but yes, obviously that's not Hasbro's decision. They have to copy what they see on screen, but because it is plastic and not a soft goods component, it is restricting the legs there a little bit. And yeah, it's just, clone armor fits very closely around the top of the leg, so you don't even get that much in the wiggle room department there around that. It's kind of hitting the cod piece there in the front as well, so not really getting too much movement there. But as I've mentioned before, I am not too adventurous when it comes to posing my figures. I generally go for a pretty sort of neutral standing position and doing something a little bit more interesting in the upper half of their body rather than getting too wild and adventurous with their lower legs. So that doesn't bother me about that restriction there, but that is a note there for some fans. So let's take a closer look at the backpack. We've got this dark gray. I really like this vibrant orange here, the striping. We've got little red buttons here, a little bit of an orange panel there. The antennae have a little bit of movement. They are fixed in, so you're going to be a little bit careful not to if you're going to put this in storage, make sure that's not going to get bent over time. I feel like they've got a bit of flex, so they're not too brittle. And we've got a small little peg there to attach it onto the back of the figure. So let's go ahead and put that on. Attaches nicely there. Sits just above the thermal detonator there on the back of the belt. So that's not really impacting on its placement much there. It looks really nice. I like that pop of orange tying it in to the rest of the figure there. And we've got this one clone trooper blaster pistol accessory. So had a little bit of an issue with this with the first version of Echo, because he doesn't have a standard right hand for grasping a weapon. The left hand that most figures have is just a sort of a standard kind of C-shaped grip. The index finger is not pointed like for a trigger for a blaster, so it kind of affects the way that they can hold this, because the best way to hold these little blaster accessories is to kind of hook the finger in to the trigger. And this one, you can't really do that. So kind of wish that for Echo in particular, they had a different hand sculpt, because I'm going to see, and this one's quite tight. I can see already that's quite a tight grip with those fingers there. I'm going to have to see how easily I can get this little accessory in here. Okay, so you can kind of see what I was trying to describe. He just kind of holds the grip of the blaster, because his finger doesn't go into the trigger, so it kind of looks a little bit awkward. You kind of can't hold it straight. It's kind of moving in because it's just pushing against all of his fingers there. So it looks a little bit If I'm not looking straight at it, I probably won't notice it, but I remember this from the first version of the figure. I wish that he had had a trigger finger for his left hand to make the blaster a little bit easier to pose. But he does have a holster here on the skirt, so if this bothers you, you can simply pose it holstered, which I'm probably going to do for this particular figure. So I'll just take that one out and we'll go and put this one in here. This one doesn't have a hole at the bottom of the holster like some do. So we'll just see how well this is going to slot in this one. Nice and tight, looks very good. I like the pouch details on this skirt detail. Oh, we've got a little bit of glue here. You can kind of see that. It's a little bit shiny. A little bit of glue from where this component has, and we've got a little bit here at the bottom. It's not like a paint floor, but that sort of change in glossy texture, because we've got a little bit of a subtle texture on this skirt. So the shiny glue is just catching my eye a little bit there. A little bit. It is tricky, I guess, trying to sort of glue components down. This one is a lot tidier on this side. It's just a little bit of a shame there, but I'm not really seeing it there from the front, so that's okay. So now we've gone over most of the details here. I like the way it all looks. Very nice. So I'm gonna check out this helmet here because, of course, Echo has this sort of cybernetic implant on the back of his head, much like Lobot in The Empire Strikes Back, that is visible when wearing his uniquely shaped helmet. And for this particular figure, they have boxed him with it already on. So he's got a unique Clone Trooper helmet. I really like all of the gray panels here. We've got a mixture of, I think, 3 different grays. The main gray, light gray, well, that's more of a cream. We've got light gray over here, a dark gray. I think this is almost a white here on the top. A lot of details. We've got a tiny little red dot in the grill here. And if I take the backpack off, we can see that there is a intentional split here in the base of the neck. So we can sort of pop it open. You might be able to see that there is like a peg hole and there is a peg on this side. So it does clip together. My first Echo Black Series figure, it does take a little bit of wrestling with this to actually get those 2 components to peg together, but it can be done. I can kind of show it here when it's off. It kind of pegs together. You can see the little peg there going into that tab. So you just get that little line at the back of the neck. Very nicely done, I have to say. And taking it off is a little bit easier than putting it back on again. Trying to get that to snip together, it takes a little bit of work. But I think it is a pretty good way of doing it. I know perhaps some people may have preferred just basically 2 different heads, like they did with the Mercenary Omega figure, because her little helmet and her hair sculpt don't really work together. But now we can finally get a nice clear view of the head sculpt of this figure, because the box only has the figure pictured with the helmet on, which I think is really interesting. So, I love the face sculpts of the Bad Batch figures in the Black Series line. This looks fantastic. Some really good paint job there, which is always a relief when I can't see them in the packaging before I buy them. And then we've got, it's like sort of like a brass or a copper metallic accent of all of the little studs that is left on his head there. And we've got a dark gray cybernetic implant here, and we have a little yellow dot accenting on either side, which is very nice. And we can really see that red neck seal now that we've got the helmet removed as well. So proportionally, I think they've done such a really good job with the Bad Batch figures in terms of the helmets not looking too bobblehead, and the heads looking well proportioned to the rest of the figure as well. Very nice. Awesome. Oh, this is such a great figure. I'm always a little bit nervous with these plastic-free packaging, sort of blind box ones. You don't know if you're going to get a dud, something broken, something painted weird. I think he looks really cool. So there we go. That is his accessories. Now I'm just going to quickly grab the Season 1 version of Echo to take a closer look and see what we have in terms of potentially reused components, differences, things like that. As I mentioned earlier, this one comes with the sort of grapple arm that fits over his existing droid arm. Not my favorite accessory. It's fairly big and oversized, so I don't actually mind that it is not included in this second version here. So let's take a closer look at the two little helmets here. So they both have that feature of sort of being able to be taken off and pegged closed. And looking at the sort of the damage marks, this looks like this is the same sculpt, I think, just with a different paint app, because we've got these little scoring lines here on the top, which I can see on this one here as well. So not too surprised there. We've just got a different paint app, but they actually look pretty close together in terms of the paint. He didn't really change up his helmet too much. Just we've still got this dark gray stripe across the top, just a little bit of a different color accents, and of course we lost the 99 symbol there. So very cool. So let's take a look at the backpacks. We've got them. I'm expecting these to be the same. Yep, just different color apps. I really like the strong orange of this one. This one is more of a metallic sort of copper color. And we've got red up here, orange on that one. Oh, the buttons on this one are accented in red. They are not painted on this version. And down here we've got black. This bit is not painted, it's just the same plastic. So we've got some interesting differences there with the backpack. So now we can take a closer look at the figures. So as I mentioned, this one has those kind of big cybernetic sort of robot legs there, and pretty much this is all sort of unpainted. So it kind of has a bit of a slightly unfinished look. I know if there's no paint apps on the original source material, you know, character in the show, Hasbro can't just go in and, like, you know, put extra detail on there that doesn't exist. But there was something about just the gray finish of this one that just looked a little bit more plasticky. I know it's made out of plastic. That seems like a weird critique, but there is something about the mix of textures and colors on this figure that just look a little bit more matching with the top half, I think is what I'm trying to describe there. There is something about the contrast of how glossy and clean this is with the texture and weathering of his torso armor. It just felt like a little bit of a mismatch there, just in action figure form. I think we've got the same face sculpt, which is not too surprising, but we've got some differences here with the heads. So Season 1, we have the little silver sort of rivet points on his head. This one, we have these sort of coppery ones. The cybernetic implant section on this one looks black. On this one, it looks more of a dark gray, and we actually have a painted detail there over by the ear area. We've got a little yellow dot on this one. And I'm seeing quite a few pieces that I was not expecting to be quite so different. The shoulder armor pieces are different. This one has sort of like a raised top section. This one doesn't. So those are different. I'm expecting the forearms to be the same. And that looks the same. Obviously made in completely different plastics. We've got very different colors here. Red glove, black undersuit, a very light undersuit. And if I'm going to raise up the arms, the belts are very different. We've got a leather or leather looking belt here, and this one is more of a classic clone trooper belt. We've got different pouches. We've still got the thermal detonator on the back, but the pouches are different. Got sort of brown flat ones. These ones look like ammo pouches. We've still got a holster, and that box there next to the holster is different, but you can see the skirt sections are completely different. The angle is different here on that front edge, and obviously the colors are very different. This is red. This one definitely looks more orange when I put it next to the red of this one as well. We don't have these webbing straps on the back. Very different. And the legs are obviously very different. We've got more of a classic clone trooper leg here compared to these ones with those very big knees. Wow. I was kind of expecting this to be a little bit more of just like, you know, a repaint. I was not expecting, like, yeah, on this side we've got those skirt details different there as well. Same little boxes here. This one had a little bit of a glue mishap here. Well, not saying mishap, it's just kind of pulled away and the glue's gone a bit white. So it's not like a splodge, and then we've got that little bit of a glue thing there. I do wonder about how fast they have to assemble these toys in the factory sometimes. We can see the chest plate is the same. We've got the same weathering. We've got this sort of hash scratches here on the chest and here. This one looks more weathered because the weathering here is all painted in silver. So it's not actually sort of that pitting in the sculpt. We've got a little bit of it around the top, which we can see a little bit better now that we've got the helmets off. The plastic does catch the light a little bit better, showing that sculpting detail there. It's still here under the paint. And of course we have that Bad Batch Clone Force 99 skull on the original Season 1 armor that is missing on the Season 2 Mercenary Gear version. So, wow. I really like this new figure. I think that it's really quite cool seeing the two of them side by side. Obviously there's just a little bit of variance in terms of articulation and how the pieces all go together. My figure here is just a tiny bit taller than this one. I'll have to, you know, adjust it, see if there's, you know, things to do with the posing, or if, because this one's got different legs, so that might be attributing, because the belt on this one is much higher than this one. So I feel like the legs are giving him a slightly different height here as well. It's really interesting. The ab plate looks to be the same, but this one's potentially sitting, I think it's the belt that's making it look like a different ab plate, but it does, I think the sculpting is the same on it. It has the same little sort of scratch lines here on the front panel. So I think those are the same. It's just the way that the chest armor and the belt and everything is giving them a little bit of a different look. But wow, I do like seeing characters progressing through different outfits, particularly in animated shows. A lot of the times it's just cheaper to animate a character in wearing the same gear all the time. So I do like that the Bad Batch did get a variety of different versions of their gear, and we're getting them in action figure form. I really hope we get Season 3 Bad Batch figures coming out soon. They kind of stopped after we got the Omega Mercenary Gear figure for the Black Series line. I want more. I need more, particularly from those amazing final episodes. I need a lot more figures for my Black Series Bad Batch collection. There's only 18 at this point that have been released. I need more. There's so many fabulous characters from that third season. Hemlock, Emery, lots and lots of other ones, because I am having so much fun going through these figures. I think, looking under the lights, the plastic of the heads is just slightly different. This one looks just a tiny bit darker than this one, because it's probably not intentional. It's just a slightly different batch of plastic. But yeah, there's just a little bit of a difference there as well. The painting on the face looks to be pretty much the same as well. Wow. I do like the original iconic Bad Batch dark grey and red colors, but there's something about the way that the details of this one all work together. I think I might prefer this one. Obviously, I have to get both, but I really enjoyed going through the details on this one. I think it's an amazing figure. Such a fabulous addition to my Black Series collection. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Black Series collectible and had some fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.